afternoon, good evening, Kraken fans. Thank you so much for joining our Disabled Hockey Week Q&A with Seattle Kraken Intersectionality consultant Keenan. I am Everett Fitzhugh, team broadcaster for your Seattle Kraken. Again, really appreciate everyone joining us here. But before we begin, we've had some questions over the past couple of days about whether this broadcast will be available live or recorded after we're done. We want to let folks know that while we're continually discussing ways and how we can improve our content and our live streams and how we can make them more accessible, while we don't currently have the technology in place to allow captions to appear live today, we will have captions on the recorded video that will be shared shortly after this stream ends. We'll continue to actively identify the tools and programs that we need to make sure that all of our content is accessible to everyone, and we also welcome your feedback. So this will be available shortly after our stream. You won't have to worry about that. We'll add captions to it as well, and we're going to have a really good conversation. I'm actually very, very excited to be speaking with Chanel, and she's already made so many great strides in our organization in the short time that she's been Seattle Kraken Intersectionality consultant. And when you hear that term, intersectionality, what does that mean? Chanel's job is going to be making sure that our building, our app, everything involving our organization is 100% accessible, making sure that our building is the most accessible building in the world. And looking and listening to her vision and having gotten to know her and talk to her over the past month or so, she's got a lot of big things planned for the organization, and we're really excited to meet her, find out more about her. We'll ask her where she got her hockey fandom from. We'll talk a little bit about her family. We'll talk about her blog and her influencer-like social media presence. So come along with us as we have a really fun conversation. And without further ado, I want to welcome in Chanel Keenan, the new intersectionality consultant for the Seattle Kraken. Chanel, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It was a beautiful day here in Seattle. I've only been here for about a month and a half, but I'm still getting used to seeing the mountains everywhere I go. So today was a fun day. And being from the Midwest, from the Eastern time zone myself, like I know it's a little after 7 o'clock there. What's the weather like for you back out east?
Yeah, it's pitch black here. I'm gonna hope that the skies are clear. I haven't made a venture out to look, but it is definitely the winter here.
I'm gonna miss the winter. Like I love the weather out here, but there's something about 10 inches of snow that I really enjoy. Are you a snow person? Are you a winter person? Or are you trying to retire to a hot tropical beach somewhere with nothing but perfect skies and sunny weather?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I'm a big snow person. I'm a big winter fan. Are you a winter person as well, or are you more of like a retire to the beach, enjoy the hot weather kind of person?
Oh, I am definitely a East Coast girl. I like having seasons. The winters can get long at times, but that's completely fine with me. I don't I don't think I'd be able to handle a super hot climate like California, even though
Okay.
I would like that type of weather all the time. But I like hear them complain about a 50-degree day, and I'm like, that's borderline like summer to me. So
Complaining about a 50-degree day. I love it. Well, I want to dive right into this. And again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us and to speak with us and sharing your story. And we've had an opportunity, you and I, along with the rest of the staff, to get to know each other and talk to each other over the past couple of weeks. And one thing that I've really enjoyed hearing is your willingness and your ability to discuss your disability and how open you are about it. And I want to start from the beginning. For folks who don't know Chanel, tell us a little bit about your disability and explain how it has affected you. Has it affected you, and some of the ways and things you've done to overcome it?
yeah, so I have something called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is more easily and commonly known as brittle bones disease. And I would say I haven't had to overcome too many things other than kind of more of like society's views of disability and, those types of biases and stereotypes that come with that. But within my own family and friend group, I've been included in, the best ways that I can be. And yeah, I haven't really had to overcome too much, but basically, my friends and I like to joke that I have bird bones, and it's a nickname that I heard from a TV show, and I was like, oh, that's like the perfect way to describe it. So
It's interesting that language has played such a big part now in ways that we describe abilities, disabilities, things like that. And you were telling me a couple of days ago that you see language as a personal preference, and the way that someone may refer to an ability or a disability is differently than the way someone else might. And for you, just explain how language plays a part when you're trying to explain your disability. Some people may be a little bit apprehensive. Some people may be afraid to say the wrong things. But for you, you feel that it's a personal preference. If I'm disabled, if someone's disabled, it's up to me to decide how you refer to me and my disability as.
right, and I think that it really is up to the person who has the disability. I have heard a lot of really interesting terms lately, like special abilities or differently able, and I think based on the communities that I'm a part of, that those are terms that we haven't really adopted. I feel like they've been developed by able-bodied people, which definitely goes against, how us disabled people feel like, disability is not a bad word, and we kind of perpetuate those problems when we, cushion what it sounds like, or make it into something that it's not. And I even had someone reach out to me recently and was like, it would be great if you could come talk to these elementary school students. We're doing, highlighting differently able people
Yeah.
and, talking about disabilities. But to me, that sets the clock back when we call it things that it's not. And but again, it's personal preference, and if a disabled person feels like they have special abilities, that's really cool. I feel like I have no superpower, other than really good hearing, which comes in handy sometimes. But my parents wish I didn't. Um, but yeah, I think it's up to the person, and it is definitely hard for, publications or companies to get it right. But I think, if we can step away from trying to make it sound differently, um, it is what it is. But we're doing our best.
We're here with Keenan, intersectionality consultant for your Seattle Kraken fans. Remember, you can submit questions, you can submit comments. Jessica thinks Chanel is doing amazing, sweetie. Absolutely, she is. And you mentioned superpower, so I'm going to break it up real quick here. And I think that's like, I love these kind of get to know you questions. And if you could have any superpower, you only get one, what would it be?
Teleportation for sure.
Okay.
Um, I've definitely been in a couple of situations where people kind of forget that I'm in the room. This happened a lot in high school, and things would just be said in front of me that I'm like, I don't think I was supposed to hear that. But so it's already kind of been the invisible route, and it's kind of boring, honestly. And it poses for a lot more problems than being able to go somewhere that you want to go when you want to go. So
I'm not gonna say you stole my superpower, but you totally stole my superpower. I think teleportation, invisibility, that would be mine. So I'm going to agree with you and say that that is mine as well. Your role here with the Seattle Kraken as intersectionality consultant. I mean, we're going to talk about that specifically here in a second, as it has potential to do amazing things. And I just want to know more about your journey and about your path to get to the Seattle Kraken. It's a very fascinating story. You have this, like I said before, this influencer like social media presence. You've got your own, podcast that we're going to get into a little bit later on. But I want to know how a couple of posts this past summer on your blog and on your podcast, followed by many in the sports and disability community, ultimately found its way in front of Seattle Kraken's own Becca Elliott, who is in charge of our app and making sure that our app is 100% accessible. You were able to get on her radar, and ultimately that led you to the Seattle Kraken. Take us through that story.
yeah, so first off, I'd like to give a shout out to Black Girl Hockey Club, because ultimately they are the reason that Becca saw that post. I feel like a lot of my recent writings have come from a long time of trying to figure out, what I want to do with my career and how can I implement sports because I love them and I love the communities that they create. But at the same time, I kind of feel like there was always something missing and I could never really put my finger on it. And then, when we were going through a really incredible summer, even with all the pain that was going on. I was really inspired by all of that, and I felt like it was a good time for me to kind of collect my thoughts and put it out there. And even if no one read it, I think it was just good for me personally to get them out there. And through Black Girl Hockey Club, Becca saw my post and
Mhm.
then got in contact with me, which initially I wasn't even sure if she was really a part of the team. Like I didn't really have a real understanding of what her job was right away. But I was really impressed when I was brought on board. And originally, I was just supposed to help with the app, and
Okay.
then I did something really against my nature, and I wrote her a really personal email and was like, I feel like I can do more for this organization. Obviously, the app is a really integral part of it. But I feel like as a culture, I felt like I could do something more. So that's kind of where I landed today.
And that kind of brings me into that next question. When you hear accessibility, that word, and when you think about the language that we talked about earlier today, take us through your role with the Seattle Kraken, what you plan on doing. And I know it's a very, very new, very, very fresh role, like the rest of us in this humble startup organization known as the Seattle Kraken. You have an opportunity to really put your fingerprints and your stamp on an area that hasn't been seen before in this game. So take us through that role of making this building, this team, this organization 100% accessible.
I think the goal is to be as accessible as possible, and I think that because we're starting from scratch, it's a really important time to try and get it right.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's hard to change the insides of buildings when they've been around for decades. And I think we all have sort of a general understanding that only so much can be done to those types of organizations. So to be able to have conversations with people working on building our arena and even just like being present in a meeting, like if
Yeah.
they have a question that they have not been able to ask a disabled person or ask somebody who's actually going to be using these things, I think that alone is really important because otherwise, like, who can you go to?
Mhm.
And I think that that's a really important step. So even if I'm not on the field like measuring things or trying everything, like it's just important that there's a disabled presence there to help them sort of shift their thinking a little bit.
Getting some great comments there. Keep them coming, guys. Courtney says that she is the best. I could not agree more with that. Tons of great support for what you're doing for us, Chanel. And going into, you mentioned something very interesting a second ago. It can be easy to fall into that if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality when you're looking at other established teams. But with the Seattle Kraken, Todd Lywicki and everyone else in the organization has gone on record as saying, like, this is an organization that wants to turn hockey, the sports world, the NHL on top of its head and do things in a way that have never been done before. And when you think of the word accessibility, what does that word mean for you? And in what ways do you see your vision, your role fitting in with that overall, that arching theme of changing the way that we take in and that we consume the game of hockey?
I think it's just bringing things up that are not thought about,
Mhm.
and that goes from accessibility buttons to closed captioning on our app. It can go as far as anything, and just making sure that we are building a building that is made for everybody, or one that can be adapted, or we can implement other tools to make it more accessible. Because I think the best part about working here is that we are very aware that we will not get it perfect, and I find that to be really helpful because a lot of people hold us to a really high standard as a new team. There's a lot of pressure on us to get everything as right as it can be.
Yeah.
But I would say that accessibility just means that we're trying to move the needle. We're trying to think of things that we don't normally talk about, things that are not within our normal nature, like just anything really,
Mhm.
because I think that the more we talk about different barriers that other people face, or challenges, or however you want to call it, then we're being open minded, and I think that that's the one thing that you can of course find here in this amazing organization.
Chanel, I want to explore and expand on your hockey fandom and your sports fandom. And Dan just sent in a fan question right there up on the screen. You get one game, two NHL teams in any venue that you've either been to or that you've seen. Who are those teams and where is that game being played?
I would like to see, and I don't know how the maps work, but, or like how the games go, but like, I think it'd be cool to see, the Kraken play the Bruins at Climate Pledge Arena, because, I keep having like a weird dream about like me being there and it being like super emotional, because I think for everybody, once it's done, it will be a really like gratifying moment to see it
Yeah.
all happening. And I think that as somebody who's, doing really small things all around our organization, to see it, full stop is would be really impressive. So I would say that, and then it's just kind of like I can sit back, because no matter who wins, I'll be happy.
Hashtag Chanel for GM, says Jess on Facebook. And I'm sure we could put a bug in Ron Francis's ear to have you in a couple of those meetings for sure. So, where did this hockey fandom come from? I mean, you're a Bruins fan for now. We'll forgive you for the moment. But where did this hockey fandom come from? You've been a major contributor to hockey Twitter for quite a while. You mentioned earlier to us that you actually started working in sports when you were back in high school. Take us through that process, where your fandom developed, and how you've ultimately now parlayed that love for sport into a career in hockey.
So I grew up with all brothers, and I was often, having to go to all their games, outside in the cold rinks, like all these things. I was definitely a rink rat growing up. But I never really got into them back then, and I think it was just because it was forced. And if I had it my way, I'd be doing, just total anarchy anyway. So, um, I don't know. I found it just kind of by accident. I started making it a practice to get my homework done before games, and then I was on Twitter for some reason, and then I started seeing how, people from all around, the U.S. and Canada were Bruins fans, and I just saw the amazing community that was out there, and obviously it's not perfect. But for someone who has a bit more of a challenge, like going places all the time, or getting out there and traveling, being able to connect with people online has always been really special to me. And I think there's obviously a lot of problems with social media and stuff like that, but for me, I've tried to make a safe space for myself, and not really try and get into those types of problems. But I would say just being able to find a community of hundreds of thousands of people is really special, and for it to be, created by a sport is even more unique.
You brought up your family earlier today and how big of a role they've played, your brothers getting you into it. Take us through your family. Is it just brothers? Any sisters? Were you in the backyard running around doing things with them growing up? Like, to take us through your family life growing up.
Yeah, so I was the baby sister, and I was definitely, used to my advantage by my older brothers. There were a couple of pranks that probably went a little too far on my mom. I was hidden in a pantry once. They put me on top of the refrigerator once. To some degree, I feel like that is a little bit normal. Not necessarily the circumstances or the scenarios, rather, but just using me as a prop, basically. And also, of course, my brothers used me as a chick magnet, because when I was younger, I was cute, and it was definitely, it came to their advantage, and I regret helping them, because I definitely played into it a little bit. I feel like I should, find some way to get compensated for it now, but yeah, I definitely took on the role pretty seriously.
So as I love that. I love that chick bang. That's fantastic. Fans, keep those questions coming. We definitely want to make this as interactive with you guys as possible. And you talk about that support system, and obviously they're your family. They're going to love you and support you regardless of what you do. That's the best part about being a part of a family. But it has to feel good to know that despite your disability, your brothers still treated you with the same amount of respect and didn't treat you any differently. And I think that's so cool to have that support system, and you having been able to use that support system to create this podcast, to create this blog. Your podcast, See More Than Sports, you give a voice to historically underrepresented communities in the game of hockey. And from racial tensions this past summer, gender inequality, representation of the disability community, you touch on it all. Going through your articles on her sports at UMass Amherst, you talk about everything from Ariana Grande's new album to switching from a MacBook Pro to an iPad Studio. So I just want to know the inspiration of your podcast, and how have you seen it impact others?
Yeah, so I started my podcast because I was kind of cornered to do it by a couple people. I had a phone call with a NFL sideline reporter, Laura Oakman, who is the founder of Galvanized Sports, and we had a really long conversation about the lack of disabled representation in sports broadcasting and just sports in general. And um, we just she just kind of decided for me that I was going to start this. And I'm very fortunate that she pushed me to do that because, we had a call on Monday, you and I and our whole staff,
Yeah.
with the amazing Anson Carter. I called him Anson during our practice round, but I don't know him like that, so I can't be saying Anson like I
I think he's allowed. I think we know Anson. We can call him Anson, AC, Ace, whatever. I
Ace,
think
yeah.
I think we're tight like that. We could do
He,
that.
he has a lot of cool nicknames. I'm
He
really
does.
jealous.
He does.
Yeah, anyways, he said something about how, if there's no one doing it, someone has to be the first. And I was really against doing that and putting myself out there in a video format, for a couple of reasons, but mainly I just wanted to do the podcast in my pajamas and not have anybody know. So, being able to, see these mostly women face to face and to meet so many incredible people while doing these interviews has helped me in a lot of ways prepare for something like this. And I've just been really enjoying the ride, and it's taking a bit of the hibernation right now, but I've been proud of all the interviews that I've been able to do.
This past summer, the hockey community, and good morning, I should say good morning to Morgan out in Australia. So we've got listeners and viewers all over the world. That's amazing that we're coming to you live in Australia right now. How does that feel, Chanel?
A little crazy.
That's a little crazy, right? Like I'm half expected someone from the International Space Station to chirp on here in a second. But you talk about the representation and trying to draw more attention to these issues. And obviously, this summer, the hockey community and really the sports world as a whole has had to take a long look at itself and at the social issues that have been affecting it for quite some time. You look at groups like the Hockey Diversity Alliance, Black Girl Hockey Club, who you are very close with, and others have been very vocal and active when it comes to trying to bring attention to these issues and shed lights on these problems. And I want to get your thoughts on the efforts and the strides that have been made within the hockey community to have more equal representation, be it racial, gender, LGBTQ plus, disability. Just your thoughts on that direction, where the league is going, and the overall steps that are being taken now to assure that hockey is indeed for everyone.
I think we're making slow and steady progress. And like I said, with our organization, even though, we are doing our best to be split down the middle of male and female representation, which I
Yeah.
think is so important, I think we need to set sort of the precedent for the whole league in that regard. And, it seems like there's a lot of invisible barriers to that, and it's hard to try to change the mindset of some of these organizations. And I feel like to some degree, like a lot of organizations operate like their own state. So even
Mhm.
though we're under the umbrella of the NHL, like people, they operate the way that they operate, and that's fine, right? But if we want to become a place that's inclusive and as kitschy as we play it off to be, we have to actually do the work to show that we mean it and to make authentic decisions that are ultimately going to make our game better. And I think
Mhm.
that that is something that has only been proven to be correct, because we haven't even started yet, and we have so many amazing fans from all around the world who have all different types of backgrounds, and that is really important to me. So that was another reason I was really excited to join this organization.
And to follow up that question, and I think Gabrielle on the screen right now has got a great point, and we'll go to Gabrielle's question because she pretty much stole it right out of my notes here. But if you could make one change to hockey or sports culture regarding inclusion in the snap of your fingers, what would you choose to change? And that goes along with what I was going to ask you. Where do you think we need to go next? What is that next step for you?
I think we just need more minority representation. Again, going back to Anson's comments. Oh my gosh, Anson Carter's
We
comments.
know him though.
Um,
It's fine. We
it's
know
fine. He
Anson.
knows
We
me,
know
so I don't have to
Anson.
worry about it. Um, going back to his comments, he said something about him wanting it to be 50%. Of the white and black or of other minority groups, and I watched a documentary that he might even have been in, and this was maybe 7 years ago that it was published. And when they were asked, where do you see the league in 5 years, they said 50-50. And I got really sad when I realized the reality of that had not come true yet, because we are working towards there. Obviously, we had a really important draft year, um, with like the first highest ranked black player. Like that's a huge deal and a
Byfield,
really
yeah.
amazing accomplishment. But it's 2020, right? So that should not we should not have firsts happening, in my opinion. So we're making steady progress, and I think if I could change anything, it would be having more of the equal white to minority athlete representation, because I think that that's really important.
And I think that that's another really good thing and a good aspect about working for the Seattle Kraken. And you have said on this interview so far, and just in our meetings as well, that this team leading by example, hiring more women, hiring more people of color, embracing their diversity. And when you see more teams like the Seattle Kraken doing things the right way, it's only going to lead to a domino effect in a sport that fairly or unfairly, rightly or wrongly, has been considered a predominantly white sport and is trying to change that moniker and is trying to change that way of thought.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
No, absolutely. What I was saying was, I think, you mentioned about teams doing things the right way, and the Seattle Kraken. One of the great things about working with the Seattle Kraken is the fact that this team is doing things the right way and embracing that diversity. And it's only a matter of time before the other 31 teams in the NHL start to take notice.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not going to happen overnight, and that's completely unrealistic to think so.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely a need for more female representation and more LGBTQ representation, because I feel like those are part of the reason why there seems to be a barrier to entry for people like that. And a lot of people get grandfathered into this league, and while that's really cool and really important for a lot of families, I think that we have to move away and give people who are qualified and who have worked their butts off to get to where they are to have these opportunities, like to even create a pipeline of sorts to make the league more accessible to other people, because I think once we do that, we'll start seeing a change in our culture for the better.
Want to give a quick shout out to my good friend Jesse Liebman, the voice of the ECHL's Orlando Solar Bears, listening in today. So Chanel, we've got all over the world. We got Australia, we got right here. I've seen Indiana pop up, obviously out on the East Coast where you're from, here in Seattle. Here with Chanel Keenan, the intersectionality consultant for your Seattle Kraken. I am Everett Fitzhugh, and Brennan wants to know, what can sports journalists and media do to help create this necessary positive change? After all, we in the media, we are the ones who present the information. We're the ones who tell you, what's going on. So how can we as the media do a better job of helping to create this necessary change?
Yeah, and I think it's tricky because I know that there's a lot of disabled sports leagues and competitive ones at that. Like we have sledge hockey, and USA sledge hockey is
Yeah.
really huge. And we just don't highlight them the same way that we highlight, standard men's hockey. And that's the same for women's sports, the whole nine. And I think we just need to do a better job of hyping up everybody equally, and that's hard to do when it's really culture based, and with a smaller niche ish sport like hockey, it's a little bit harder. But even, this past weekend, the Vanderbilt game where there was a
Yeah.
female kicker, like that's a huge deal. And obviously there was, from what I saw, almost equal backlash to equal support. So the more we have moments like that where we're normalizing these things, where we're championing other people and other sports, especially ones that do not get as much recognition, I feel like that's the first step that we can make. Find these athletes that are really, have who might have twice the time of trying to prepare for a sport like this because it's played differently, or how does one athlete's regimen different from another's. They all have really important stories, and that's not really a super route that I'm planning on going to, but I feel like I would be a viewer to that, and I would
Yeah.
find that to be really refreshing.
You mentioned the Vanderbilt kicker, Sarah Fuller. That was a fantastic moment. And I was actually looking up this week. I believe they're in Georgia. I think Vanderbilt's in Georgia this week. So I'm thinking that, she's probably going to be on the depth chart. So I'm rooting for Vandy this week. I know Becca Elliott. She is a Georgia dog herself. So I think that she'll be rooting for the dogs and for Sarah Fuller as well. But that was an amazing story this past weekend. I want to get some Kraken talk here. So you, like the rest of the world, were just as shocked and in awe when the Kraken unleashed the brand and the name. I want to get your thoughts on what did you think about the colors and the logo. And I know that you're a Bruins fan, you're an Original Six fan. So, but now you've got this brand new, exciting brand in the NHL. Where do you think it stacks up amongst the other brands in the league? And just what was your initial reaction when the Seattle Kraken went from being NHL Seattle to the Kraken?
I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I think we've seen a little bit more than the fans have been able to.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for everybody to be able to see what we've been able to see. And I think that people are just excited about something new, and are really supportive of us as an organization. So I think it's interesting because when we start from the beginning, we have a little bit more leeway. We don't have the history. So, well, we started to. But, we can collect fans from all over the world. And I think we've been able to see that tonight with, comments from people from Australia. But I think that it's really exciting, and I was really excited by it. And I was on Instagram today, and I just saw the announcement again, like when the whole like texting conversation version of it came
Yeah.
out, which I forgot about. Like that feels like it was ages ago. And it was just funny to like look back on that and be like, wow, we've come so far from even just something as big as that at the time. So
Chanel Keenan, the intersectionality consultant for the Seattle Kraken. My name is Everett Fitzhugh. Chanel, we've got a few minutes left, and I want to thank you for the first of what will be many times over the next few minutes here for joining us and being so open and sharing your story. I've got a few more questions for you. I'm going to get into like a little rapid fire thing here. So give me one word answers, couple sentence answers, and we'll see if we can get through a few of these questions just to get to know you a little bit better. Okay.
sounds good.
All right. So first off, we'll make it nice and easy. Favorite NHL player and your favorite NHL team?
Favorite NHL team, Seattle Kraken,
Obviously.
obviously. Um, and then I guess my favorite player is definitely Patrice Bergeron.
Okay.
Hoping to see him wear the C before, I turn 80, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, so what's it going to be like? And I'm going to knock on all the wood that I can find here. But Seattle Kraken, Boston Bruins meet in the Stanley Cup final. Are your loyalties tested, or are you Kraken through and through?
I would say I'd be happy either way. I'll just say that. I would be happy either way. Like I said, if I was able to, go to a game right now and it was those two matching up, I would be happy either way.
Okay. Okay. What's your favorite hockey or your favorite sports memory?
My favorite sports memory is Patrice Bergeron's overtime winner against the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2013. It was a huge comeback, and I like to rewatch the highlights when I'm sad.
How many different meals or recipes have you come up with your Thanksgiving leftovers?
Come up with none, but we did something different this year. We had fried chicken instead of turkey, and that was really a good time for me because I don't like turkey. And this, I was like, we can never go back. Like this is the best. Like I don't know what we're supposed to do next year if we have a real Thanksgiving, but I will be looking for the fried chicken and not the turkey. So
I did ham this year myself. Is your Christmas tree up yet?
No, it's not. I'm kind of surprised by that actually, but it's kind of like when there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't really go down there when the tree is getting put up because it's like an art piece. So it's just to look at and admire. It's not really to completely decorate. So
what is your favorite Christmas gift that you've ever received?
Probably tickets to a Bruins game. And I think the one I ended up going to, the seats were like really nice. So, and which for me, I don't really know that till I get there. So it's kind of a surprise, but definitely hockey tickets are always a good idea.
Of course, you hear that out there, folks. If you want to get in Chanel's good graces, hockey tickets. You were going to put mom and dad on blast here. What's the one gift that you've always wanted, either as a kid or now, but you never received?
I would say that I am very spoiled still, and probably more so back in the day. So I don't think I've had too many Christmases where I've been disappointed, but for the longest time when like the iPod Touch first came out, I was like hankering for one like really badly, and when I didn't get one like in a timely manner, because my birthday's in November and it's kind of close, so it was like I didn't get it for my birthday, so I was like, if I don't get it for Christmas, like there will be problems. It wasn't really like that. I'm very grateful, and I would never have said that out loud because not like that.
Not.
But I was in my head. But then when I got it for Christmas, I was like, okay, everything's fine. We're good.
And last one, and I think it's the most important one of this rapid fire. What is the best Christmas song, and why is it All I Want for Christmas is by Mariah Carey?
Oh, because it's a classic. It's a classic, and no cover of it does it justice. Because who can sing up that high other than her? She might not be able to do it now anymore. Look it up. But yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
I usually don't mind covers of songs, but when a cover of that song comes on, I turn it off. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Chanel Keenan, thank you again so much for joining us. Really, really looking forward to your big plans and you putting your stamp and your fingerprints all over this organization and truly making the Kraken, the training facility, Climate Pledge Arena, the most accessible organization in the world. We thank you so much. Get out to Seattle soon so we can have you and get you to work on the ground. But again, enjoy your holidays. Happy holiday season. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
All right. That was Chanel Keenan, our intersectionality consultant for your Seattle Kraken. We're going to wrap things up. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us here this afternoon. It was an amazing conversation. And I really appreciate Chanel opening up and sharing her story and being so open about her disability and about the issues that may be affecting our game and where we need to go from here. And it was also great to learn a little bit more about her on a personal level and how her brothers used her as a chick magnet growing up. That was fantastic. We're going to have this recorded. We're going to put this up on our social channels here shortly with captions and everything like that. So don't worry. We'll be able to watch that here momentarily. Going to say so long here tonight. Again, thank you for all of the comments, all of the questions. Thank you guys so much for joining in. We'll talk to you soon. Happy holidays. Take care.